The bitter December wind of 1884 tore through Rawhide, Nevada like a knife through butter, and Lucy Morrison stood on the porch of her father's ranch house in nothing but her thin cotton nightgown, her bare feet already turning blue against the frozen wooden planks. Behind her, the door slammed shut with a finality that echoed across the snow-covered plains, and she could hear her stepmother Constance's voice shrieking something about ungrateful children and finally getting what she deserved. Lucy's breath came in short, panicked gasps that formed white clouds in the frigid air as she stared at the pile of fabric burning in the metal barrel near the barn, orange flames licking at what remained of every dress, every coat, every stocking she had owned in this world. Her father had left 3 days earlier to drive cattle to Carson City, a journey that would keep him away for at least 2 weeks, maybe longer if the weather turned worse. Constance had waited exactly 1 day after his departure before she started her campaign of cruelty, beginning with small insults and escalating to withholding meals, and now this. Lucy wrapped her arms around herself, her teeth chattering so violently she bit her tongue and tasted copper. The sun was setting behind the Sierra Nevada mountains in the distance, and the temperature was already well below freezing. She would not survive the night out here. She stumbled down the porch steps, her feet screaming in protest as they touched the snow-covered ground. The barn was perhaps 50 yards away, and she thought maybe she could hide in the hayloft, burrow into the dried grass for warmth, but even as she took her first faltering steps, she knew it would not be enough. The cold was already seeping into her bones, making her movements sluggish and uncoordinated. She had made it perhaps 20 yards when her knees buckled and she fell forward into a drift of snow, her hands disappearing into the white powder up to her wrists. That was when she heard the sound of hooves, steady and rhythmic, coming from the direction of the main road. Lucy tried to call out, but her voice came as barely a whisper, her throat constricted from the cold. She managed to lift her head and saw a figure on horseback emerging from the gathering dusk, a tall man in a heavy coat with a wide-brimmed hat pulled low against the wind. He was leading a pack horse loaded with supplies, probably heading to one of the ranches further north, and as he drew closer, she could see him straighten in his saddle, his posture suddenly alert. "Jesus Christ," the man said, and his voice carried clearly across the frozen landscape. He dismounted before his horse had fully stopped, hitting the ground at a run, and then he was kneeling beside her, his gloved hands touching her face, her arms assessing the damage. "What in God's name happened to you?" Lucy tried to answer, but her jaw would not cooperate, the muscles locked tight from shivering. The man did not wait for an explanation. He shrugged out of his heavy sheepskin coat and wrapped it around her, then lifted her as easily as if she weighed nothing at all. The coat was warm from his body heat and smelled of leather and sage and wood smoke, and Lucy found herself pressing her face against his chest, seeking any source of warmth she could find. "Hold on," the man said, and there was something fierce in his voice, a determination that cut through the haze of cold that was clouding her mind. "Just hold on, I've got you." He carried her to his horse and somehow managed to mount while still holding her, settling her across his lap with the coat tucked tightly around her body. Then he turned the horse not toward the road, but toward the barn, and Lucy realized he must have seen where she had come from. He rode right up to the barn doors and kicked them open, then guided the horse inside out of the wind. The barn was only marginally warmer than outside, but at least it blocked the cutting wind. The man dismounted and carried her to a corner where hay was stacked nearly to the ceiling. He laid her down carefully on a pile of loose straw, then began moving with swift efficiency, pulling blankets from his pack horse, striking a match to light a lantern that hung from a beam. In the golden glow of the lamp, Lucy could finally see his face clearly. He was young, probably no more than 25 or 26, with dark brown hair that curled slightly at the ends and a strong jaw covered with several days' worth of stubble. His eyes were a striking blue-gray color, like storm clouds, and they were filled with concern as he looked down at her. "My name is Benjamin Foster," he said, as he spread blankets over her, layering them thick. "I work for the Double R Ranch about 15 miles north of here. Can you tell me your name?" "Lucy," she managed to stammer out. Lucy M. Morrison. Morrison, Benjamin repeated, and his expression darkened. This is the Morrison Ranch? Is your father Henry Morrison? Lucy nodded, and Benjamin's mouth pressed into a hard line. Where is he? Why did he let this happen to you? See Carson City, Lucy said. Drove sea cattle. My Saint Stepmother. Understanding dawned in Benjamin's eyes, followed quickly by anger. She did this to you? She threw you out? Lucy nodded again and suddenly found herself fighting back tears. She would not cry, she told herself fiercely. She had not cried when her mother died 4 years ago, had not cried when her father married Constance barely 6 months later, had not cried through 2 years of increasingly cruel treatment. She would not start now. But Benjamin must have seen something in her face because his expression softened. It's all right, he said quietly. You're safe now. Let me look at your feet. He pulled back the blankets enough to examine her feet, and Lucy saw him wince at whatever he saw there. Frostbite starting, he said. Not too bad yet, but we need to warm you up slowly. Too fast, and it will do more damage. He pulled off his gloves and wrapped his bare hands around her feet, and Lucy gasped at the warmth. His hands were large and rough with calluses, the hands of a man who worked hard for his living, but his touch was gentle. This is going to hurt as feeling comes back, Benjamin warned. But that's good. It means you'll keep your toes. He was right. As warmth gradually returned to her feet, pain came with it, a burning, tingling sensation that made Lucy bite her lip hard enough to draw blood. Benjamin kept his hands steady, occasionally rubbing gently to encourage circulation, and he talked to her in a low, soothing voice to distract her from the pain. I was riding back from Silver Springs, he said. Bought supplies for the ranch. We're getting ready for the winter, making sure we have everything we need in case we get snowed in. I was going to push through and try to make it home tonight, but I think we're stuck here until morning now. Can't risk traveling in the dark in this cold, especially not with you in this condition. I'm sorry, Lucy whispered. Benjamin's eyes snapped up to meet hers. Don't you dare apologize. None of this is your fault. What your stepmother did is unconscionable. It's attempted murder, plain and simple. The words hung in the cold air of the barn, stark and true. Lucy had not thought of it in those terms before, but he was right. Constance had meant for her to die out here in the snow. The realization sent a different kind of chill through her body. Benjamin seemed to sense her fear because he squeezed her feet gently. She's not going to touch you again, he said, and there was steel in his voice. I promise you that. He continued working on her feet for nearly an hour, patiently warming them until the color returned and Lucy could wiggle her toes without gasping in pain. Then he moved to her hands, which had fared slightly better but still needed attention. While he worked, the wind outside picked up, howling around the barn walls and whistling through the gaps in the boards. Snow began to fall more heavily, visible in the lantern light through the open barn door. I should close that, Benjamin said, glancing at the door. Keep as much warmth in here as we can. He stood and walked to the door, and Lucy watched him move, noting the easy confidence in his stride, the way he seemed completely unaffected by the cold that had nearly killed her. He was wearing a dark shirt and vest, now that he had given her his coat, and she could see the powerful muscles of his shoulders and back as he struggled to slide the heavy barn door closed against the wind. When he returned to her side, he was brushing snow from his hair. It's coming down hard now, he said. We made it inside just in time. He settled back down beside her and pulled one of the blankets around his own shoulders. How are you feeling? Any warmer? Yes, Lucy said, and realized it was true. The combined warmth of his coat, the blankets, and the shelter of the barn had raised her body temperature enough that she could think clearly again. Thank you. You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same, Benjamin said. I don't think that's true, Lucy replied quietly. Plenty of people would have ridden on by, not wanting to get involved in family troubles. Benjamin was quiet for a moment. Maybe, he admitted. but I'm not plenty of people. He adjusted the blankets around her, making sure she was completely covered. You should try to get some sleep. Your body needs rest to recover. What about you? Lucy asked. You gave me your coat. Won't you freeze? A small smile tugged at the corner of Benjamin's mouth. I'll be all right. I've got blankets and I'm used to sleeping rough. Besides, I'll stay awake for a while. Keep watch on the lantern and make sure the horses are settled. Lucy wanted to protest, wanted to insist that he take his coat back, or at least share the blankets more equally, but exhaustion was already pulling at her. The trauma of the evening combined with the warmth and safety she now felt was making it impossible to keep her eyes open. She fought it for a few more minutes, but eventually sleep claimed her. She woke several times during the night, always with a moment of panic before she remembered where she was and what had happened. Each time, Benjamin was there, sometimes sitting nearby, whittling a piece of wood by the lamplight, sometimes checking on the horses, once adding more hay around them for extra insulation. Every time he noticed her stirring, he would come over and ask quietly if she was all right, if she needed anything. His presence was steadying, a solid anchor in a world that had tilted sideways. When dawn finally came, pale gray light filtering through the cracks in the barn walls, Lucy woke to find Benjamin building a small fire in a cleared patch of dirt floor near the barn's center, far from the hay. He had fashioned a makeshift chimney using an old metal bucket with the bottom cut out, positioned under a gap in the roof to let the smoke escape. Good morning, he said when he saw her eyes open. How do you feel? Lucy took stock of her body. Her feet and hands ached, and she felt weak, but the desperate, bone-deep cold was gone. Better, she said. Much better. Good. Benjamin hung a small pot over the fire. I'm making coffee, and I've got some jerky and hardtack we can eat. It's not much, but it will give you some strength. Lucy pushed herself up to sitting, keeping the blankets wrapped around her shoulders. Benjamin's coat had slipped down during the night, and she pulled it back up, grateful for its warmth. She watched as Benjamin tended the fire, his movements efficient and practiced. In the gray morning light, she could see him more clearly than she had the night before. He had a kind face, she thought, strong but not hard, with lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often. How long have you worked at the Double R? Lucy asked. About 3 years now, Benjamin replied, pouring water from his canteen into the pot. I came out from Missouri looking for work, and the ranch owner, Robert Fontaine, took me on. It's a good place, fair wages, decent conditions. Robert's a good man to work for. Do you like it? The work, I mean. Benjamin glanced at her, seeming surprised by the question. I do, actually. It's hard work, long hours, but there's something satisfying about it. Taking care of the land, the animals, building something that lasts. He smiled slightly. Listen to me, getting philosophical before breakfast. My mother would say I need food in my belly. Your mother sounds wise, Lucy said. She was, Benjamin said quietly. She passed away 5 years ago. Fever took her. I'm sorry. My mother died 4 years ago. Pneumonia. Their eyes met across the small fire, and Lucy felt a connection spark between them, a recognition of shared grief. Benjamin nodded slowly. It's hard losing a parent. Changes everything. Yes, Lucy agreed. My father was never the same after. He was lost, I think. That's why he married Constance so quickly. He thought he needed someone to run the household, to take care of things. He didn't realize what kind of woman she was. Does he know how she treats you? Benjamin asked. Lucy hesitated. I think he suspects, but he doesn't want to see it. And Constance is very good at hiding it when he's around. She's all sweetness and light to his face. And then the moment he's gone. She trailed off, remembering the venomous look in her stepmother's eyes the night before. Benjamin's jaw tightened. When is he due back from Carson City? Not for at least another week, maybe 2, depending on the weather and how the cattle sale goes. Then you can't go back there, Benjamin said firmly. You understand that, don't you? It's not safe. Lucy had been trying not to think about this particular problem. I don't have anywhere else to go. My mother's family is all back in Pennsylvania, and I don't have money for train fare even if I could make it to the station in Reno. Benjamin was quiet for a moment, watching the water in the pot begin to steam. You could come to the Double R, he said finally. I'm sure Robert would take you on. We could always use help with cooking, laundry, mending. It's not easy work, but you'd have a place to stay and food to eat. You'd be safe. The offer was so unexpected, so generous, that Lucy felt tears prick at her eyes. You barely know me, she said. Why would you do this? Benjamin looked at her directly, his blue-gray eyes serious. Because it's the right thing to do. Because no one should have to live in fear, especially not in their own home. He paused. And because there's something about you. I don't know what it is exactly, but from the moment I saw you in that snow, I felt like I was meant to be there, like I was meant to help you. Lucy felt her heart skip a beat at his words. She had known this man for less than 12 hours, and yet she felt safer with him than she had felt in years. I would need to get word to my father, she said slowly. He would worry when he comes home and I'm gone. We can send a letter from the Double R, Benjamin said. Explain what happened. Let him know where you are. If he's a good father, he'll understand. He'll be glad you're safe. The coffee was ready, and Benjamin poured some into a tin cup and handed it to her. Lucy wrapped her hands around the warm metal, breathing in the rich, bitter smell. She took a sip and felt the hot liquid warm her from the inside out. All right, she said. I'll come with you. Relief washed over Benjamin's face. Good. That's good. He poured his own cup of coffee and sat down across from her. We'll wait a few hours for the storm to pass and for you to get your strength back. Then we'll head out. It's a hard ride to the Double R, probably 5 or 6 hours in good conditions, longer with the snow. But we'll take it slow. Make sure you're managing. They ate breakfast in companionable silence, the jerky and hardtack exactly as unappetizing as Benjamin had suggested, but welcome nonetheless. Lucy could feel strength returning to her body with each bite. When they finished, Benjamin banked the fire and began preparing the horses for travel. You'll ride with me, he said as he tightened the cinch on his saddle. I don't think you're in any shape to handle a horse on your own, and besides, you'll need my coat to stay warm. Lucy stood up carefully, testing her weight on her feet. They were sore and tender, but they held her. She made her way over to where Benjamin stood with the horses, still wrapped in blankets. He was checking the pack horse's load, making sure everything was secure. I don't have any shoes, Lucy said, looking down at her bare feet. Benjamin turned and assessed the problem. You're right. We need to do something about that. He thought for a moment, then pulled a spare shirt from his pack. Using his knife, he cut the shirt into long strips and then carefully wrapped her feet in the fabric, creating makeshift boots that would at least provide some protection and insulation. It was not a perfect solution, but it was better than nothing. That should hold until we get to the ranch, he said. Sarah, the cook's wife, she'll have something that fits you better. By mid-morning, the wind had died down and the snow had stopped falling, though the sky remained heavy and gray with the promise of more to come. Benjamin saddled his horse and helped Lucy mount, then swung up behind her. He arranged his coat around her so that it covered her from shoulders to knees, then pulled her back against his chest. This is the warmest position, he explained, and Lucy could hear a slight awkwardness in his voice, as if he was aware of the intimacy of the arrangement, but did not know how else to manage it. Just lean against me. I won't let you fall. They left the barn and headed north, away from the Morrison ranch house, where Constance no doubt still slept, unaware or uncaring that Lucy had survived the night. Lucy did not look back. There was nothing there for her anymore, except painful memories. The journey was long and cold, despite Benjamin's coat and his body heat at her back. The horse picked its way carefully through the snow-covered landscape, and Benjamin kept up a steady stream of conversation, telling Lucy about the Double R Ranch, about the other cowboys who worked there, about the surrounding country. His voice was soothing, and Lucy found herself relaxing against him, letting him take the weight of her exhausted body. There's about 15 hands that work the ranch full time, Benjamin was saying, plus seasonal help during roundup and branding. Robert runs cattle, about 2,000 head and some horses. His wife, Elizabeth, handles the household side of things. They've got 2 children, a boy and a girl, 8 and 6. Good kids. And they'll really take me in? Lucy asked. Just like that? Robert and Elizabeth are good people, Benjamin said. They believe in helping those who need it. Last year, they took in a family whose homestead burned down, let them stay all winter until they could rebuild in the spring. And Sarah and Tom, the cook and his wife, they're originally from back east, came out here with nothing, and Robert gave Tom a job, a place for them to stay. They'll understand your situation. The sun had climbed to its zenith, though it remained hidden behind the gray clouds, when they finally crested a rise, and Lucy saw the double R spread out in the valley below. It was larger than her father's ranch, with a substantial 2-story house, multiple barns and outbuildings, and extensive corrals. Even from a distance, she could see people moving about, going about their daily work. That's home, Benjamin said, and there was unmistakable warmth in his voice. They rode down into the valley, and as they approached the ranch proper, people began to notice them and stop their work to stare. A woman emerged from the main house, shading her eyes with her hand as she watched them approach. When they drew near enough, she called out, "Benjamin Foster, where have you been? We expected you back last night." "I know, Sarah, I'm sorry," Benjamin called back as he reined in the horse near the porch. "I ran into trouble on the road." Sarah was a plump woman in her 40s with graying hair pulled back in a severe bun, but her eyes were kind as she took in Lucy's appearance. "Good Lord above, what happened to this poor girl?" Benjamin dismounted and then carefully lifted Lucy down from the saddle. "This is Lucy Morrison. She needs help, and I told her we could provide it." "Is Robert around? I need to speak with him." "He's in the barn with the foaling mare," Sarah said, but her attention was on Lucy. She came down the porch steps and put a gentle hand on Lucy's arm. "Come inside, dear. You look half frozen. Let's get you warm and fed, and you can tell me everything." Benjamin met Lucy's eyes. "Go with Sarah. She'll take care of you." "I need to talk to Robert, but I'll check on you later." Lucy nodded, suddenly feeling shy. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." "No need for thanks," Benjamin said softly. "I'm just glad I came along when I did." Sarah led Lucy into the house, through a warm kitchen that smelled of bread and stew, and up a flight of stairs to a small bedroom under the eaves. It was simply furnished with a narrow bed, a dresser, and a washstand, but to Lucy it looked like paradise. "This is where we put up temporary guests," Sarah said. "It's not fancy, but it's warm and private. Now let me get you some proper clothes. You can't walk around in just that nightgown and Benjamin's coat, though Lord knows the boy did right giving it to you." She bustled out and returned a few minutes later with an armful of clothing. "These were mine when I was younger and slimmer," she said with a wry smile. "They should fit you well enough. There's a dress, some undergarments, stockings, and shoes. Get yourself changed and then come down to the kitchen. I'll have hot food waiting." Lucy changed into the borrowed clothes, marveling at the simple pleasure of being warm and covered again. The dress was a practical brown wool, a bit worn but clean and serviceable. The shoes were slightly too large, but with an extra pair of stockings they fit well enough. When she looked at herself in the small mirror above the washstand, she saw a pale, tired young woman with dark circles under her eyes, but at least she looked human again. She made her way back down to the kitchen, where Sarah had set out a bowl of hearty beef stew and thick slices of fresh bread. Lucy ate slowly at first, mindful of her empty stomach, but as the food settled, she found herself eating with increasing hunger, soaking up every drop of the rich gravy with the bread. Sarah sat across from her with a cup of tea, watching with satisfaction as Lucy ate. "Nothing better than seeing someone enjoy good food," she said. "Now, Benjamin didn't tell me much, just that you needed help." Do you want to tell me what happened? Lucy set down her spoon and took a deep breath. Then slowly at first, but with increasing confidence, she told Sarah everything. About her mother's death, her father's hasty remarriage, Constance's cruelty, and finally about being thrown out into the snow with nothing. Sarah's expression grew increasingly grim as the story unfolded. That woman should be horsewhipped, Sarah said when Lucy finished, and then thrown in jail. You could have died out there. I would have if Benjamin hadn't come along, Lucy said quietly. Sarah's expression softened. Benjamin's a good man, one of the best we've got here. Always willing to help, never complains about the work, treats everyone with respect. Robert thinks very highly of him. She leaned forward. He's not married, you know, or courting anyone. Just in case you were wondering. Lucy felt her cheeks flush. I wasn't wondering. I mean, I'm very grateful to him, but I'm sure he was just being kind. Sarah said, but there was a knowing look in her eyes. Well, kind or not, you're safe here now. Robert's a fair man. Once he hears your story, I'm sure he'll offer you a place here. We could certainly use the help. I've been after him to hire someone to help with the household work. Elizabeth does her best, but she's got the children to look after, and this is a big house to manage. As if summoned by the mention of his name, the kitchen door opened, and a tall man in his 50s entered, followed by Benjamin. Robert Fontaine was an imposing figure, well over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a full beard going gray at the edges. His eyes, however, were gentle as they settled on Lucy. Miss Morrison, he said, his voice a deep rumble. Benjamin has told me about your situation. That's a terrible thing that happened to you. Just terrible. I want you to know that you're welcome to stay here at the Double R for as long as you need. Thank you, sir, Lucy said, standing up from the table. I'm very grateful. I'll work hard, I promise. I can cook and clean and sew and help with whatever needs doing. Robert waved a hand. We'll work out the details later. Right now, you need to rest and recover. Benjamin says you had frostbite on your feet? Just mild, Lucy said. Thanks to Benjamin's quick action. They're sore, but they'll be fine. Good, good. Robert glanced at Benjamin, who was standing near the door. Benjamin, you did right bringing her here. I'm proud of you for not hesitating to help. He turned back to Lucy. My wife Elizabeth will want to meet you properly tomorrow. But she's dealing with a sick child today, so I'll spare her the introductions for now. Sarah will get you settled in. We'll talk more once you've had some rest. He left the kitchen, and Sarah stood up. Come on, dear. Let's get you back upstairs. You look dead on your feet. Benjamin stepped forward. Lucy, before you go up, I wanted to make sure you were all right. Really all right. Lucy looked at him, at the genuine concern in his eyes, and felt something warm unfold in her chest. I am, thanks to you. I don't know how I can ever repay you. You don't need to repay me, Benjamin said. Just get better. That's all I ask. Their eyes held for a long moment, and Lucy felt her heart begin to beat faster. Then Sarah cleared her throat meaningfully, and the spell was broken. Off to bed with you, Sarah said, shooing Lucy toward the stairs. And you, Benjamin Foster, get yourself to the bunkhouse and get some rest yourself. You've been up all night. Lucy climbed the stairs to the small room under the eaves, and when she lay down on the narrow bed, she was asleep almost before her head hit the pillow. She slept deeply and dreamlessly, the sleep of someone who was truly safe for the first time in a very long while. Over the next few days, Lucy settled into life at the Double R Ranch. She helped Sarah in the kitchen, learning to cook for a dozen hungry cowboys. She assisted Elizabeth with the children and the household tasks. She mended clothes and scrubbed floors and did whatever was asked of her, determined to earn her place here. Everyone was kind to her, welcoming her into the ranch family without question or judgment. But it was Benjamin she found herself thinking about most often. She saw him at mealtimes, when all the ranch hands gathered in the big dining room for breakfast and supper. He always smiled at her, asked how she was doing, made sure she was settling in all right. Sometimes she would look up from her work and catch him watching her, and the expression in his eyes made her breath catch. A week after her arrival, she was in the kitchen kneading bread dough when Sarah said casually, "Benjamin asked about you this morning. Wanted to know if you were happy here, if there was anything you needed." Lucy felt her cheeks warm. "That's very considerate of him." "Considerate," Sarah repeated, amusement in her voice. "Is that what we're calling it? Lucy, dear, that boy is smitten with you. Anyone with eyes can see it." "He's just being kind," Lucy protested, but even as she said it, she knew it was not entirely true. There was something between them, something that had sparked that first night in the barn and had been growing steadily ever since. "He's being a man who's interested in a woman," Sarah corrected. "And unless I'm very wrong, which I rarely am about these things, you're interested in him too." Lucy punched down the dough with more force than necessary. "Even if that were true, what would be the point? I'm still technically living in my father's household. I'm in mourning for my old life. It wouldn't be proper." Sarah snorted. "Proper went out the window when your stepmother tried to kill you, dear. And as for your father, well, he'll need to answer for letting that woman into his house and not protecting you from her. No, if Benjamin Foster wants to court you, and you want to be courted, I don't see what's stopping you except your own stubborn pride." That evening, as Lucy was helping clear the dishes after supper, Benjamin approached her. "Lucy, could I speak with you for a moment?" "Outside, if you don't mind the cold." Lucy glanced at Sarah, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Of course," Lucy said. She grabbed a shawl from a hook near the door and followed Benjamin out onto the porch. The sun had set an hour earlier, and the sky was ablaze with stars, more stars than Lucy had ever seen in her life. The air was cold, but still, without the vicious wind that had nearly killed her. Benjamin led her away from the house to a fence overlooking the horse pasture. For a moment they stood in silence, watching the horses move like shadows in the darkness. Then Benjamin spoke. "I wanted to apologize if I've been too forward," he said. "Sarah told me I've been asking after you too much, that I might be making you uncomfortable." "You haven't made me uncomfortable," Lucy said quickly. "Not at all. I appreciate your concern. It's been nice having someone care about how I'm doing." "It's more than concern," Benjamin said, and there was something raw in his voice. "Lucy, I know this isn't the right time. I know you've been through hell and you're still recovering, and I should probably wait, should give you space. But I can't stop thinking about you. I haven't stopped thinking about you since that night I found you in the snow." Lucy's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I think about you too," she admitted. "All the time." Benjamin turned to face her fully, and in the starlight she could see the intensity in his eyes. "I want to court you properly. I want to take you to church socials and barn dances. I want to walk with you and talk with you and learn everything there is to know about you. But only if that's what you want too. I won't press you if you're not ready." "I am ready," Lucy said, and realized as she said it that it was true. "I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But you saved my life, Benjamin. And not just my life. You gave me hope again. You showed me that there are still good people in the world, people who help without expecting anything in return. I would be honored if you wanted to court me." The smile that broke across Benjamin's face was like the sun coming out. He reached for her hand, and she gave it to him willingly. His hand was warm and strong, and just the touch of it sent sparks up her arm. "There's something else you should know," Benjamin said. "I'm not a rich man. I've got some savings put away, enough to maybe buy a small piece of land someday, start my own ranch. But that's years away. Right now, I'm just a cowboy working for wages. I can't offer you fancy things or an easy life." "I don't want fancy things," Lucy said. "I just want to be with someone who treats me with kindness and respect. Someone who sees me as a person, not as property or an inconvenience. You've already given me more in 1 week than my stepmother gave me in 2 years." Benjamin squeezed her hand gently. Then we'll take this one day at a time, get to know each other, see where it leads. They stood there for a long time, hands clasped, looking out at the star-filled sky. Lucy felt a peace settle over her that she had not felt since before her mother died. This was right, she thought. This was where she was meant to be. Winter deepened around the Double R Ranch, bringing more snow and bitter cold. But inside the ranch house and bunkhouse, there was warmth and companionship. Lucy threw herself into her work, earning the respect and affection of everyone on the ranch. Elizabeth Fontaine became a kind of surrogate mother to her, teaching her how to manage a large household efficiently. The Fontaine children adored her, and she often found herself playing games with them or reading them stories in the evening. And through it all, Benjamin was a constant presence. They could not spend as much time together as they might have liked, as both of them had work responsibilities, but they found moments. He would catch her in the barn when she came to collect eggs, and they would talk for a few precious minutes. She would bring him coffee when he was mending fences near the house, and they would share quiet conversation in the pale winter sunlight. On Sundays, when work was lighter, they would take walks around the ranch property, always properly chaperoned by Sarah or one of the other ranch wives, talking about everything and nothing. Lucy learned that Benjamin had grown up on a small farm in Missouri, the youngest of 5 children. His father had been a veteran of the Mexican-American War who struggled with old injuries and was never able to make the farm profitable. When their parents died, the farm had been sold to pay debts, and Benjamin and his siblings scattered to make their own ways in the world. 2 brothers had gone back east to work in factories. A sister had married a shopkeeper in St. Louis. The other sister had died of consumption the year before Benjamin came west. I wanted land of my own, Benjamin told her as they walked along the creek that ran through the ranch property. Space to breathe. I couldn't stand the idea of working in a factory, being cooped up inside all day. Out here, even though I'm working for someone else, I'm free. I can see the horizon. I can feel the sun on my face. I understand that, Lucy said. My mother used to say she felt closest to God when she was outdoors, surrounded by His creation. My father loved that about her. He would take her riding up into the mountains, and they would be gone for hours, just the 2 of them. Her voice caught slightly. He was a different man when she was alive. Happier, more alive himself. Do you miss him? Benjamin asked gently. Your father, I mean. Lucy thought about that. I miss who he used to be. I miss the father I had when I was a little girl, who would put me on his shoulders and carry me around the ranch, who would read to me at night. But the man he became after my mother died, the man who married Constance, and then turned a blind eye to how she treated me, that man I don't miss at all. That man is a stranger to me. 2 weeks before Christmas, a letter arrived from Henry Morrison. Sarah brought it to Lucy where she was helping Elizabeth decorate the main room with pine boughs and red ribbons. It's from your father, Sarah said, handing her the envelope. Lucy's hands shook slightly as she opened it. The letter was short, written in her father's cramped handwriting. Lucy, I returned home from Carson City to find you gone, and Constance in hysterics, claiming you ran off with some cowboy. I have since spoken with several people in town who informed me of what really happened, about how Constance threw you out into the snow and burned your clothes. I confronted her, and she admitted to it, claiming you had been disrespectful and ungrateful. I have sent Constance back to her family in Sacramento and filed for divorce. I should have done this long ago. I should have protected you. I failed you as a father, and I will have to live with that for the rest of my life. I understand you are at the Double R Ranch and that they are treating you well. I am glad you are safe. If you want to come home, you are welcome, but I will understand if you choose not to. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Your father, Henry Morrison Lucy, read the letter twice, then handed it to Elizabeth, who had been watching with concern. Elizabeth read it quickly and then pulled Lucy into a hug. Oh, honey, she said, that must be so hard to read. He sent her away, Lucy said, and she was surprised to find that she was not crying. She felt a strange mix of relief and sadness, but not the overwhelming grief she might have expected. He finally stood up to her. "What will you do?" Elizabeth asked. "Will you go back to him?" Lucy shook her head slowly. "No, that part of my life is over. My home is here now, if you'll have me." "Of course we'll have you," Elizabeth said firmly, "for as long as you want to stay." That evening, Lucy showed the letter to Benjamin. They were sitting in the kitchen after supper, ostensibly so that Lucy could help him mend a torn shirt, but really just to have an excuse to spend time together. Benjamin read the letter carefully, then set it down on the table. "How do you feel about it?" he asked. "Relieved," Lucy said, "and angry, and sad, all at once. I'm glad he finally did the right thing, but it shouldn't have taken this for him to see what Constance really was. He should have protected me from the beginning." "You're right," Benjamin said. He should have. But at least he's trying to make amends now. "Is it enough, though?" Lucy asked. "Can you undo that kind of damage just by sending the person away and apologizing?" Benjamin was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I think that's something you'll have to decide for yourself, whether you can forgive him or not. But Lucy, whatever you decide, I'm with you. You're not alone anymore." Lucy felt tears prick at her eyes, but they were good tears this time. She reached across the table and took Benjamin's hand. "Thank you," she said. "That means everything to me." Christmas came, and the ranch was transformed with celebration. Elizabeth and Sarah cooked for days, producing an enormous feast. All the ranch hands were invited to the main house for Christmas dinner, and the table groaned under the weight of roast turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, 3 kinds of pie, and more food than Lucy had ever seen in one place. Benjamin sat next to Lucy at dinner, and under the table their hands found each other and held tight. Robert made a toast to good friends and family, and everyone cheered. The children performed a small play they had been practicing, and gifts were exchanged, small handmade things that meant more for the thought and effort than their material value. Benjamin gave Lucy a carving he had made, a small wooden bird with its wings spread in flight. "So you never forget that you're free now," he said softly as he pressed it into her hand. Lucy gave him a scarf she had knitted from yarn Sarah had helped her find, in a deep blue that matched his eyes. "So you stay warm when you're out working," she said. They looked at each other, and the room full of people seemed to fade away. There was only the two of them, this moment, this feeling that was growing stronger every day. After dinner, someone produced a fiddle, and furniture was pushed back to make room for dancing. Benjamin offered Lucy his hand. "May I have this dance, Miss Morrison?" "You may, Mr. Foster," Lucy said, placing her hand in his. They danced, and Lucy discovered that Benjamin was surprisingly graceful despite his size. He held her properly, at a respectful distance, but his hand at her waist seemed to burn through the fabric of her dress. They moved together easily, naturally, as if they had been dancing together for years instead of for the first time. "You're beautiful," Benjamin said quietly, and the sincerity in his voice made Lucy's heart skip. "You're not too bad yourself," Lucy replied, smiling up at him. The song ended, but they stood for a moment longer, not quite ready to let go of each other. Then Robert was tapping Benjamin on the shoulder, asking for the next dance with Lucy, and the spell was broken. But the feeling remained. As winter gave way to early spring, Benjamin and Lucy's courtship deepened. He asked her one Sunday in March, in the presence of Robert and Elizabeth, as was proper, if he could court her with the intention of marriage. Lucy said yes without hesitation. "I love you," Benjamin said that night as they stood on the porch, the evening air finally mild enough to be comfortable. "I think I've loved you since that first night when I found you in the snow. I know it's crazy to fall in love so fast, but I can't help it. You're everything I've ever wanted. You're strong and kind and brave, and you make me want to be a better man." "I love you too," Lucy said, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world to say. I never thought I could feel this way about anyone. I thought my stepmother had broken something in me, made me unable to trust or hope. But you showed me that wasn't true. You showed me that I could have a future filled with happiness instead of fear. Benjamin cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently stroking her cheeks. I want to give you that future. I want to marry you, Lucy. I want to build a life with you. I know I can't offer you much right now, but I promise I will work every day to give you the life you deserve. You've already given me more than I ever dreamed of, Lucy said. You've given me love and respect and safety. That's worth more than all the money in the world. He kissed her then, soft and gentle, a promise of all the kisses yet to come. Lucy melted into him, feeling cherished and wanted and whole for the first time in years. They set the wedding date for early June, when the mountain wildflowers would be in bloom. Lucy wrote to her father, informing him of her engagement. He wrote back with his blessing and a promise to attend the wedding, along with a generous check to help pay for the celebration. Lucy was surprised by the gesture and touched despite herself. Maybe he really is trying to make amends, Elizabeth said when Lucy showed her the letter and the check. Maybe, Lucy agreed. But it doesn't change the past. I'm willing to have him in my life again, but things will never be the same between us. In the months leading up to the wedding, Benjamin worked harder than ever, taking on extra jobs around the ranch and in town, saving every penny he could. He had a plan, he told Lucy, but he wanted it to be a surprise. The surprise was revealed 2 weeks before the wedding, when Benjamin took Lucy on horseback to a piece of land about 5 miles from the Double R Ranch. It was a beautiful spot, a gentle valley with a creek running through it and mountains rising in the distance. I bought it, Benjamin said, and there was barely contained excitement in his voice. 20 acres. It's not much, but it's ours. I used my savings for the down payment, and Robert is loaning me the rest. He's also giving me a raise and letting me continue to work at the Double R while we build our place up. We can start small, just a cabin and a few cattle, and grow from there. Lucy looked around at the land, their land, and felt joy bubble up inside her. It's perfect, she said. It's absolutely perfect. I'm going to build you a house here, Benjamin said. Not right away, but eventually. A real house with glass windows and a wooden floor. I'm going to make this place into something you can be proud of. I'm already proud, Lucy said, wrapping her arms around him. Proud of you, proud of us, proud of what we're building together. The wedding day dawned clear and warm, one of those perfect early summer days that felt like a gift. The ceremony was held at the small church in Rawhide, with Reverend Thomas officiating. Elizabeth and Sarah had helped Lucy make her wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown of cream-colored silk with lace at the collar and cuffs. Benjamin wore a new suit, the first he had ever owned, and he kept tugging at the collar as if it was too tight. Lucy's father was there, looking older and grayer than she remembered. When he saw her in her wedding dress, tears filled his eyes. You look just like your mother, he said. She would be so proud of you. I hope so, Lucy said. I'm sorry, Henry said, and his voice broke. I'm so sorry for everything. I was weak and foolish, and I nearly got you killed. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I will regret my failures for the rest of my life. Lucy looked at her father, at the genuine remorse in his face, and felt some of the hardness in her heart soften. I do forgive you, she said, not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry anger with me into my new life. I'm choosing to move forward, to focus on the happiness I've found. But Papa, things are different now. I'm not your little girl anymore. I'm a woman making my own choices. I know, Henry said, and you've chosen well. Benjamin Foster is a good man. He'll take care of you. I don't need someone to take care of me, Lucy said gently. I need a partner, an equal, and that's what Benjamin is. The ceremony was beautiful and moving. Benjamin's voice was strong and clear as he spoke his vows, promising to love and cherish Lucy for all the days of his life. Lucy's voice shook with emotion as she made her own vows, but the words came from the deepest part of her heart. When Reverend Thomas pronounced them husband and wife and told Benjamin he could kiss his bride, Benjamin cupped Lucy's face in his hands, just as he had that first time, and kissed her with such tenderness and love that Lucy felt tears stream down her cheeks. The reception was held at the Double R Ranch, with food and music and dancing that lasted long into the night. Everyone from the surrounding ranches attended, and even people from town came to celebrate. It was, Sarah declared, the best wedding Rawhide had seen in 20 years. As the sun set and the stars came out, Benjamin and Lucy slipped away from the celebration and walked hand in hand to the barn where he had first saved her life 6 months earlier. Do you remember that night? Benjamin asked as they stood in the doorway, looking at the place where he had built the small fire, where he had wrapped her in blankets and saved her from freezing to death. I'll never forget it, Lucy said. It was the worst night of my life and the best night of my life all at once. The night I almost died and the night I met you. I knew that night, Benjamin said. Standing there in the cold, holding you, I knew that you were going to change my life. I didn't know how, but I knew it as surely as I knew my own name. You changed my life too, Lucy said. You gave me back hope. You showed me what real love looks like. Not the hollow imitation my father had with Constance, but genuine, deep, true love. They stood together in the barn doorway, holding each other close, and looked out at the stars. Their stars, shining over their land, over the life they were beginning together. That night, they spent their wedding night in a small cabin on their property that Benjamin had built with help from the other ranch hands as a surprise. It was rough and basic, just one room with a bed and a stove and little else. But to Lucy, it was the most beautiful place in the world because it was theirs. The next morning, Lucy woke to find Benjamin already up, standing at the small window looking out at their land. She got up and wrapped a blanket around herself, then went to stand beside him. What are you thinking about? She asked. The future, Benjamin said. All the things we're going to do. The house we'll build, the cattle we'll raise, the children we'll have. I'm thinking about how lucky I am, how I never imagined I could be this happy. I'm thinking the same thing, Lucy said, leaning her head against his shoulder. They stood there for a long time, watching the sun rise over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. A new day, a new life, full of endless possibility. The first year of marriage was hard work, but filled with joy. Benjamin continued to work at the Double R, while also building up their own small ranch. Lucy helped Elizabeth with the household at the Double R a few days a week, earning her own money that she carefully saved. On their land, they built a barn and corrals and bought their first small herd of cattle, just 20 head to start. Lucy proved to have a natural talent for managing livestock. She worked alongside Benjamin, learning to rope and brand, to recognize signs of sickness in the animals, to calculate the best times to buy and sell. Benjamin treated her as a true partner, valuing her opinions and including her in all decisions about their ranch. They named their property the Rising Star Ranch, after that first night when they had stood together under the stars and Lucy had felt hope rising in her heart for the first time in years. By their second anniversary, the Rising Star Ranch had grown to 50 head of cattle and a small band of horses. Benjamin had added 2 rooms onto their cabin, creating a proper bedroom and a kitchen separate from the main living area. It was not the grand house he had promised Lucy, but it was comfortable and felt like home. That summer, Lucy discovered she was pregnant. She told Benjamin one evening as they sat on their small porch watching the sunset. I'm going to have a baby, she said simply. Benjamin's face went through a series of expressions: shock, joy, wonder, and finally a grin so wide it seemed to split his face in half. He jumped up and swept her into his arms, spinning her around until she laughed and begged him to put her down. We're having a baby, he said, his voice filled with awe. Lucy, we're going to be parents. Are you happy? Lucy asked, though she could see the answer in his face. Happy doesn't begin to cover it, Benjamin said. I'm terrified and thrilled and grateful all at once. A baby, our baby. The pregnancy was relatively easy, and Lucy continued working alongside Benjamin for as long as she was able. The ranch community rallied around them, with Sarah and Elizabeth providing advice and support, and the other ranch wives sharing baby clothes and supplies they no longer needed. In early March of 1886, after a labor that lasted 12 hours and left Lucy exhausted but triumphant, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Thomas Benjamin Foster, after Sarah's husband Tom, who had been so kind to them, and of course for his father. Benjamin held his son for the first time with tears streaming down his face. "He's perfect," he whispered. "Lucy, he's absolutely perfect." "He has your eyes," Lucy said, looking at the baby's unfocused blue-gray gaze. "And your nose," Benjamin countered. "And hopefully your brains and good sense." They were both completely smitten with their son. Benjamin proved to be a devoted father, getting up in the night to walk with the baby when he cried, changing diapers without complaint, singing off key lullabies that somehow always soothed Thomas when nothing else would. Lucy had never seen Benjamin happier than he was with Thomas in his arms. It healed something in her, some last lingering hurt from her own childhood, to see how a father should love his child, how a man could be both strong and gentle, both provider and nurturer. The years that followed were full and rich. The Rising Star Ranch continued to grow and prosper. Benjamin's hard work and Lucy's careful management paid off, and they were able to pay back Robert's loan ahead of schedule and begin building the house Benjamin had dreamed of. When Thomas was 3, Lucy became pregnant again, and this time she gave birth to a daughter they named Rose, after Lucy's mother. Rose had Lucy's dark hair and Benjamin's ready smile, and from the moment she was born, she had her father wrapped around her tiny finger. 2 years after Rose came another son, whom they named Samuel, and 2 years after that, a daughter named Grace. The house that Benjamin built grew along with their family, expanding to accommodate 4 lively children and all the noise and chaos that came with them. Lucy's father became a regular presence in their lives, visiting several times a year and doting on his grandchildren. He had aged considerably and walked with a cane now, but there was a peace about him that had not been there before. He had sold the ranch after Constance left and moved into a small house in Rawhide, and he often told Lucy that watching her family gave him more joy than anything else in his life. "You did good, daughter," he told her one day, as they watched Benjamin teaching young Thomas to ride. "You built something real here, something that will last." "We built it together," Lucy corrected. "Benjamin and me. That's what makes it strong." On the evening of their 10th wedding anniversary, Benjamin surprised Lucy by taking her back to the barn at the Double R Ranch, to the exact spot where he had saved her life. "I wanted to come back here," he said as they stood in the doorway, older now but still very much in love, "to remember where we started. That night, I thought I was just helping someone in trouble. I didn't know I was finding my whole future. I was so scared that night," Lucy said, "so cold and alone. And then you appeared, like an angel sent to save me." "No angel," Benjamin said with a smile. "Just a cowboy who happened to be in the right place at the right time." "The perfect place," Lucy corrected. "The perfect time." "Benjamin, these 10 years have been the happiest of my life. Every single day with you is a gift." "Even the hard days?" Benjamin teased. "Even when the cattle get loose or the kids are fighting or the bills are piling up?" "Especially those days," Lucy said, "because we face them together. That's what love is, isn't it? Not just being there for the good times, but weathering the storms together." Benjamin pulled her close, and she rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. The same heart that had been brave enough to stop for a stranger in the snow, kind enough to give her his coat, strong enough to carry her to safety. "I love you, Lucy Foster," Benjamin said. "Today, tomorrow, and for all the rest of my days." "I love you too," Lucy replied. "My cowboy, my savior, my home." They stood there in the barn doorway as the sun set, painting the Nevada sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple and red, and Lucy thought about how far she had come from that terrified girl in a nightgown standing in the snow. She had found love and safety and purpose. She had built a life worth living, and it had all started here on the coldest night of winter, when a cowboy gave her his coat and warmed not just her body, but her heart as well. Years continued to pass in the way they do when life is full and good. The children grew tall and strong, each with their own personality and dreams. Thomas proved to have his father's way with horses and his mother's head for business. Rose was artistic and thoughtful, always drawing or writing stories. Samuel was adventurous and bold, constantly exploring the ranch and bringing home injured animals to heal. Grace was the peacemaker, wise beyond her years, the one who could settle any argument between her siblings with a few well-chosen words. The Rising Star Ranch became one of the most respected operations in the region. Benjamin's reputation for honesty and fair dealing meant that other ranchers sought his advice and partnership. Lucy became known for her skill in breeding quality horses, and buyers came from as far away as California to purchase animals from the Rising Star herd. But more than their professional success, Benjamin and Lucy were known for their kindness and generosity. They never forgot what it was like to be desperate and in need of help. Over the years, they took in several young people who needed work or a safe place to stay, giving them the same chance that Robert and Elizabeth had given Lucy all those years ago. One winter evening, when the children were grown and starting families of their own, Lucy and Benjamin sat together on the porch of their ranch house, wrapped in quilts against the cold. The house Benjamin had built was grand now, 2 stories with a wide wraparound porch and glass windows that sparkled in the lamplight. But it was still a warm and welcoming home, filled with love and laughter. "Do you ever think about that night?" Lucy asked. "The night we met?" "All the time," Benjamin admitted. "I think about how close I came to not stopping. I was tired, and the storm was getting worse, and part of me just wanted to push on and get home. But something made me stop. Call it fate, call it God, call it luck. Whatever it was, I'm grateful for it every single day." "I'm grateful too," Lucy said. "Grateful that you had the courage and compassion to help a stranger. You gave me everything, Benjamin. A home, a family, a purpose. But most of all, you gave me love. Real, true, lasting love." Benjamin reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, just as they had on countless occasions over the past decades. Their hands were older now, marked with the scars and calluses of hard work, but their grip was just as strong. "We gave each other love," Benjamin corrected. "That's what marriage is, isn't it? A constant giving and receiving, a partnership built on trust and respect and affection. You've made my life rich beyond measure, Lucy. You've given me children and a home and a reason to work hard and dream big. Every good thing in my life started the night I found you in the snow." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out one by one in the vast Nevada sky. The same stars that had shone down on them that first night, that had witnessed their wedding vows, that had watched their children being born and their ranch grow from a dream into a thriving reality. Lucy thought about the girl she had been, thrown out into the winter cold by a cruel stepmother, certain she was going to die. That girl could never have imagined this future, this life of abundance and joy. But that girl had been brave enough to keep fighting, to accept help when it was offered, to open her heart to love even after so much pain. And Benjamin, the cowboy who had given her his coat, had been brave too, brave enough to stop for a stranger, brave enough to fight for her safety, brave enough to love her with his whole heart and build a life with her based on partnership and mutual respect. Their story had started with an act of simple human kindness on a cold winter night, but it had grown into something beautiful and enduring, a love that weathered every storm and celebrated every triumph, a bond that only grew stronger with each passing year. As they sat together under the stars, Benjamin began to hum a tune. the same off-key lullaby he used to sing to their children. Lucy smiled and rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his body against hers, the steady rhythm of his breathing. This was home. Not the house or the land or the cattle or the horses. This right here, this closeness, this companionship, this deep and abiding love. This was what home really meant. And as the winter wind blew cold across the Nevada plains, Lucy and Benjamin sat warm and safe together, proof that sometimes the darkest moments can lead to the greatest blessings, and that true love, once found, can transform everything. The years turned into decades, and Benjamin and Lucy grew old together on their beloved ranch. They celebrated 50 years of marriage surrounded by their children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren, the house bursting at the seams with family and love. On their golden anniversary, Thomas, now a grown man running the ranch alongside his father, made a toast that brought tears to everyone's eyes. "To my parents," he said, raising his glass, "who showed all of us what real love looks like, who built something lasting not just with their hands, but with their hearts, who never stopped choosing each other, day after day, year after year. May we all be so lucky in love." Lucy and Benjamin held hands throughout the celebration, and when the evening grew late and most of the guests had departed, they walked out to the barn, to the exact spot on their property that corresponded to where Benjamin had first found Lucy all those decades ago. "Do you remember being cold?" Benjamin asked, his voice soft in the darkness. "Not anymore," Lucy said. "You warmed me that night, Benjamin, and you've kept me warm every day since. Not just my body, but my soul. You taught me what it means to be truly loved, truly seen, truly valued. Everything good in my life flows from that one moment when you stopped your horse and came to my rescue. And everything good in my life flows from your courage," Benjamin replied, "from your willingness to trust me, to build a life with me, to love me even when I was just a poor cowboy with nothing but dreams to offer. You made all my dreams come true, Lucy." They stood together in the darkness, two people who had weathered every storm life could throw at them and come through stronger for it. The cold winter wind blew around them, but they were warm in each other's arms, just as they had been on that first night and every night since. Their love story had begun with a cowboy giving a desperate girl his coat on a freezing winter night. But it had become so much more than that. It had become a testament to the power of kindness, the strength of commitment, and the enduring nature of true love. And as the stars wheeled overhead in the vast Nevada sky, Benjamin and Lucy walked hand in hand back to their house, their home, built on a foundation of love that nothing could shake and nothing could destroy. They had started with nothing but each other, and they had built an empire of love that would last for generations. It was a story worth telling, a love worth celebrating, a life well lived together. And it all began on a cold winter night when a cowboy gave a girl his coat and warmed her heart forever.